I want to dive into something that I think is important, and it happens behind the scenes. So it's about these Forex companies and how they earn money. I've had the opportunity to speak to cousins of mine, and this was a few years ago, but I remember how shocked I was from hearing what he was telling me. He basically he was making around 10 to 15,000 a month. And he's young, he's early 20s. To make that much money, he must have been doing something right. You would think that. Or you would think that he's doing a lot of work. So I was so curious to want to find out how he's making this money. And he told me that basically, in a very simple way, what he does, he calls people up and he convinces them to give money to the company. And it's a scheme, and they lose their money in the end. So they make a lot of money. They make that much money, around 15,000 a month, from convincing people to give them money, which they lose in the end. He's basically stealing from the people. This is what's going on. It's insane that it's happening. It's insane that this is happening, and we don't know about this. So there are certain jobs, certain businesses that have a certain model to get good at stealing your money. Could you imagine? That's what's happening. That's what happened to my two cousins, and they are really good at it. They convince people to give them money and then they steal it. So that's why they earn that much money. And I think they make around, a small percentage from how much they take from each person each day. So imagine the company is making a lot more. And for the company to give around 15,000, could you imagine how much they're actually taking in one day? It's very vicious in a way that should wake us up to the reality of what's going on in some Forex companies. And it shouldn't be allowed, but unfortunately it is. Just to give you a bit more information in regards to my cousin, I said to him, so you make this amount of money by stealing people's money. How are you coping with that? He said to me that, we drink a lot of alcohol, we do a lot of drugs, and party on the weekends. They watch silly documentaries like The Law of Attraction, The Secret, to convince themselves that at all cost, they are manifesting the reality of being rich, because that's the goal, right? They are deluding themselves in every possible way. They are taking all these substances that block their intelligence or block out the natural human ethicalness that we have to think or question. So they're blocking these things. And I said to him, so how do you feel knowing this? He said to me, I feel depressed. I feel like sometimes I don't want to be here anymore. And I looked at him and I said to him, so why are you doing this? What is it that is taking you in? Well, he couldn't answer that. They don't think about these things. Because of that, it numbs them. So they have a system that numbs them and steals people's money. Okay, that's the model. That's the reality of what's happening behind the scenes. We don't know that. We just see these guys. They have a lot of money. They have the flashy cars, but you don't know how they make it. I call this blood money or dirty money, right? I want to show you something here because look at the connection towards the system as a whole. So imagine we have these young guys. They're innocent at one point. They have the innocence of wanting to be successful. So this is an innocent mind. And then we have these corporate companies that know how to manipulate these young guys by showing them success and money and wealth, flashy way of living, the women, the drinking, the party life. So they're instantly drawn into this. They capture them. They teach them how to make a lot of money. They start making a lot of money. And then what happens over time? They suppress themselves. And in a way, they become hollow and shallow, empty at heart, soulless. Then we have a group of guys that are slowly becoming more powerful in the system, because the more money you earn, the more you could do, the more investments you can make, the more businesses you can create. So you have more power. What do they teach? What do they inflict in their organizations? The same mentality. So there's a cause and effect that is happening when we have this type of mindset that is dominating the industry, that is constantly corrupting our kids. Once these young guys become big business owners, what do you think they do? Inflict the same confusion and the same success that they have in their mind on the younger generation. Arts are in danger. The question here is, how can we prevent this from happening? If we can't stop these organizations, how can we help our children prepare for these type of people? Are they people anymore? I don't even think so. I think they're just automatically driven towards success. And that's it. Because they're numb to kindness, compassion, and care. They're able to steal people's money, even though they know they're ruining people's lives. He said to me that some of the people call him back and they tell him that they're going to commit suicide because they've given their money. They've given it all to him. And boom, it's gone. And how did it go? Well, he's learned how to talk his way. He's become a professional bullshitter to convince you to steal your money. It's such a sad game. I mean, it's so dangerous. We need to learn or find a way to deal with the reality that we're in, where corruption is confusing our children to do evil and inflict pain on people. So how can we deal with this? Well, we must prepare our children for the reality, because if you don't prepare them for this, they're going to get sucked in as well. I think this is our only way to have open discussions, to not be afraid of discussing this, being free, being open, and rising to this. Why should we, as parents, not speak about this? Why should we hold back? It's the truth. It's the reality. And if you find out what's going on behind the Forex mentality, I don't know if it's every company, but I know it's happening to the company that my two cousins are working for. So if we know this, how can we prepare them? Well, let's be honest with them. Let's tell them that there are sharks out there and they're going to convince you to become evil, to hurt people, and to just move on just to make some money. So is this the way? And doesn't it remind you of the Andrew Tate mentality? He says, create your own reality, even if it's not true, for as long as it's making you money. Isn't this the same thing that's happening? They're making a lot of money, but look at what they're doing. They're hurting people, they're killing people, and they're suppressing themselves. So is the illusional reality better, more empowering than the actual reality? The actual reality where we have true suffering, we have true corruption that is happening in the world. So we need to have open discussions as parents, and we need to share channels like this where people are honest and unafraid, and they are ready to speak in the open. Because why? I've simply had enough. And I'm not going to hold back while my kids are growing up in this world. It's my turn to step up. And just to add to this, by stepping up, I am nothing without you, literally. Because really, what I'm doing is voicing the power that we have inside. It's not a one-man model. It's the true, honest model that we can share together if we align with this and we see this with clarity and honesty. Because this is our power, where we work together as a collective voice. That being said, I will see you in the next video. Take care and be strong. Peace.